Awesome. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Leah McTiernan, Vice President of Solution Engineering at DocuSign and proud member of the PreSales Collective WISE Council. I am thrilled to be your host today with a group of powerhouse panelists. We are going to discuss how to further develop your confidence, command, and executive presence. By the end of our time today, we hope that you will have a better understanding of executive presence and how it can help your career. You will learn at least 2 new techniques, maybe more, to build your confidence and command. And then finally, realize that 2% factor that we know Win always talks about, and how your presence and speaking can really be that edge that you need to win more deals and also build stronger relationships, both internally with employees and also customers. As I mentioned, and I wasn't kidding, we have a powerhouse panel, and I'd love for them to quickly introduce themselves before we get started. Shonda, let's start with you.
Thank you so much. My name is Shonda, or LaShonda Anderson Williams, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Sales for Healthcare and Life Sciences at Salesforce. And today I have the honor in my current role of leading our pharmaceutical vertical, where our focus is really on helping our customers accelerate the intersection of health and tech for the most important thing, which is to bring modern medicine to the marketplace faster. I will just note, prior to Salesforce, I spent 25 years at 2 large tech companies in sales, pre-sales channels, and building industry teams. And my focus for tech was actually created by happenstance. So it was a bit of a fluke. I was selected as an intern to work at IBM while going to college to be a nurse. So I'll talk a little bit about that. My intern was focusing on providing tech support for OS2 and OS3 Warp, if you know what that is. That's not a test. Most people probably don't know, but that was the foundation. And today here I am, and really, really excited to be here. And thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Awesome. Cristina?
Thank you. Cristina Weir. I'm the Group Vice President here actually at Oracle, running the Oracle Digital Organization. And I've actually had a 26-year career as a solution engineer. Making my way back at Oracle, my first job as a solution engineer was actually at Oracle back in the 90s. I'm almost a little afraid to say that, but thank you for having me. I'm excited to be a part of this amazing panel and to talk a little bit about what I've learned along the way.
Awesome. We're so glad to have you. And Tanya?
Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya Bunti, Vice President of Delivery and Client Success at Win Global. And I started my career in software, and I had a lot of different lives, training, education, support, sales, pre-sales. So wore a lot of hats, got a lot of tools and tips. So happy to be here today. Thank you.
That's awesome. All right, Tanya, we're going to start with you. And the first question is really around confidence. And for me, like, I believe confidence, it's a mindset. It's kind of taken me a while to get there. And when I think about selling with confidence, it's really about putting the customer at ease and talking to them with conviction and knowledge, but I think also sincerity and humility. So it's a fine line. And as you just shared, you know, you're a leading instructor at Win. A large part of your job is teaching sellers and pre-sales, you know, how to sell and build and develop that confidence. So I'd love to hear, you know, from you how you coach on this, and then if possible, you know, follow up, you know, one actionable thing for our audience that they could all start, you know, to put into action to get started today.
You bet.
Softball question to get started.
Just the softball.
Right,
How
right.
do I not be stressed out and anxious in my daily life and then walk in and be confident? No problem. Let's just start there. So, okay, I'm going to start with some assumptions. I'm going to assume that we're already doing the things that are normal, that everybody's going to say. The things that we calm ourselves with, like we've made our lists, we've identified our risks, our challenges, possible objections, all those kinds of things. You know, the stuff that keeps us up at night, right? I'm just going to start that we're doing all that. Then I'm going to say, play your role with intention. That's my tip. Here's what I mean when I say that, though, right? You can't just say that. In our classes, we talk about the experience economy in light of having experience as a differentiator. And this doesn't mean that we have to have a bunch of experience, because not everybody does right out of the gate. It means that we need to be aware that we're providing an experience. And in other words, we play a whole bunch of roles in our lives. All of them are authentic. I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a salesperson, I'm a pre-sales person, I'm a trainer. Lots of different roles. Every single role and every single meeting and every single moment that I walk into, I need to have my intention lined up with that role. I found that if I can do that, then I can be present in that room. And a whole bunch of things start to open up as options and opportunities. That lets me calm down and be confident about the choices I'm about to make, about what I'm going to say, and about what I'm going to do and what I'm going to commit to do. How's that?
I love it. And I think it's so foundational to your point, like having that intention, it's foundational, right? To then allow you to exude and have that confidence, right? And honestly, like a big part of the job too is like, shake those nerves out as well. And when you have and can set your intention and you're prepared, that's very foundational. No, that's great. Thank you so much. That's awesome. All right, question 2. So Shonda, as a SVP at Salesforce, which is awesome, you are a very experienced sales leader. And I'd love to hear, and I'll be honest, there's not a lot of women SVPs at any tech company, right? So I would just love to hear your perspective on how your inner confidence and mindset can drive success as much as your outer confidence, and maybe how you've evolved through that in your incredible career.
You bet. So I'll just say, first of all, this is something that I work on every day. So I don't have it all together yet. It's learning in the moment. And there's one thing that I would say that has always been consistent, and it's something I tell my girls. I have 3 kids, 2 daughters and a son, but also tell my son. We have this mantra in our house: if you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can't. It's that simple. So mindset is really, really important. And it really is about putting the words that you believe in yourself, putting it out there, and it will manifest how you show up. But there's a couple of other things I would share in terms of tips that I've learned over the years. Practicing positivity. Hope is a positive thought. It's literally just that. It's not an emotion, but it helps boost confidence. It helps getting you through the tough times when you have hard work to do. I'd say the second tip would be concentrating on your strengths, concentrating on the things you do really well. I know there's balance of understanding the things we need to develop and work on, but really being clear on, and Tanya talked about this, on who you are, being intentional on what you are and who you are and how you show up. I look at that and I say, all of us have a DNA brand, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the next conversation, but really be clear on what your brand is and focusing on the things that you do exceptionally well. And sometimes we focus on all the other things that we have to work on for development. Absolutely required, but folks, first, focus on concentrating on your strengths. Third, stop comparing. I've been 25 years in this. And so when people say, oh my gosh, I want to be an SVP, I'm like, you could be one tomorrow, but let's talk about the pathway to get there. And so confidence is about, one, just understanding your strengths. It's about staying positive, but it's also about not comparing yourself. I mentioned OS2 Warp. If some people, I saw a message, someone actually knows what that is, so I'm kind of excited. But if you don't know what it is, it's been there since, my kids would ask me, how was the Titanic? It feels like it was way back when, and it was way back
since the dawn of time.
I feel that old, but comparing ourselves sometimes really challenges us mentally, because what you don't realize is what that person went through to get to the place they are. And sometimes the trade-offs you have to make to get to those places you're not willing to, given your life plan, and that's okay. So comparison for me is something I always say. I'm proud of all women, most importantly. And I want to applaud the work that all of us are doing, but I don't want to compare myself to someone else, because I really don't know why, and I don't know their how. And that to me is something important. And then lastly, I'd say ditching doubt. You belong where you belong. There's no question where you are. You can do the job you're in, and you can punch your way to do more. But don't doubt yourself in terms of what's really possible. So ditching doubt. And the last thing I would say is, as a woman, is be kind to yourself and give yourself space and grace. We often forget self-compassion and giving ourselves space to actually learn in the moment, not having it all figured out. So I have to remind myself, I don't have the answers. I'm an SVP, but guess what I do? Just like every single person on this call, and I learned this many, many years ago, I put my pants one leg on at a time. My kids still call me and ask me for things that I think they should know, but I will put everything down to make sure to help and support them. I still need to learn many more things that I think can help improve how I show up every day for my team, for my family, but for myself. But it starts with us. The mind will drive the body, but your mindset has to be in belief and positivity. Don't doubt yourself. And if you're in a place and you think, hey, maybe I'm not supposed to be here, yes, you are. Punch your way, build a tribe of resources to help support you. So that would be my perspective on the journey, but it's still right now a journey for me. There's not a destination point in terms of how and what else I need to go do. There's so many more things that I need to learn and build from in conversations like this to validate or invalidate the fact that I don't have it all together, and that's okay.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate to so much of what you just said. Like, what is your brand? What are, know your strengths, but not comparing yourself, I think, is huge and such meaningful, good advice that we can often forget. But I also love ditching doubt, because we can get in our heads, and then that's when we start to, we doubt ourselves, right? We lose that confidence, we lose that command and presence. So thank you. So much good insight there. All right, Cristina, as a pre-sales leader, that's led a large organization. I mean, 25 plus year career is incredible. And I know you've led large organizations at Salesforce and now back to Oracle. I'd love to take this, to the internal conversation around, and how we think about having confidence around career and promotion, and that can easily apply to internally how you advocate for yourselves. And many times, especially for women, we have to have that conviction, to get ourselves into the position when we do want to ask for things, especially things that we've earned. So I'd love to hear from you on how you believe women in particular should approach this.
Well, I gotta say, I love the ditching doubt.
Yeah, I know.
That ties so much to what. Yes,
yeah.
it's going to be ditching doubt. That's going to be the new thing, LaShonda. I'm going to put that everywhere in my post. Well, I think there's a lot of aspects that kind of drive this, and I will say, there's things along the way. LaShonda talked about the journey, and Tanya talked about authenticity. These are all very important aspects of that. But there's some fundamental things that I think is really important to continue to drive kind of the progression, promotion, the next, kind of the next evolution, whatever that is. It doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be a promotion into a leadership role. It can be a promotion as an IC. It could be a lateral move into another organization. The only thing I would add to a lot of the comments that Tanya and LaShonda talked about is you have to decide whether what you do today, regardless of how great you do it, and often that has more to do with a work ethic than anything else, is whether you're happy. Because I think we forget about the happiness aspect of our role, and it's so key and crucial around that. But so I was just going to add that to the discussions. But one of the things I've found that I have found over the 25 plus years is there are cases where I've spoken with, whether they're individual contributors, managers, that I didn't even know this was a path they wanted to go, right? And so the first thing I always suggest, I know it sounds very tactical, is I always suggest to every individual to speak with their manager one-on-one. It can be an anxious conversation, but I think if you do it in a way that's constructive, it actually comes out for the better in the long run. And so speak with your manager about career conversations. And then really you want to ask some key comments or key areas like, what does your manager feel or your leader feel are your core strengths, right? You want to understand what's the brand, what's the perception of you, what's your personal brand the moment you walk out the door. And you can get that from any individual, not just your manager, by just asking those things. What do you think I do exceptionally well? What are things that you think I don't do as well that I can improve upon? And really kind of the third aspect of around that is really, what skill set do I need to develop to really get me to that next level, to that promotion? Because that's the area that I find people aren't necessarily asking. It's like, well, hey, I'm great at these components, but really you want to find out what is it that they think you need to work on, because it is a skill set, right? That's going to be needed in a leadership role, in an individual promotion role, and that's that's kind of part of career progression. That's the first.
Yeah.
The second one, and I got to put it, I'm going to give shout outs to some of the leaders who have helped me along my career journey. I got to give a shout out to my boss at Oracle, Tom Henry. He talks about, don't be afraid to jump into a burning building. Figuratively speaking, of course, figuratively speaking. And what he's talking about is that a lot of leaders like ourselves we have a list of to-dos, list of challenges, things that we need to either try to fix, resolve, drive success in the business, all of this, right? And I find that there are cases where I hear a lot of what the challenges are. That's great. That's, it's good to know where our issues lie. But I look across my organization and I'm always asking things like, well, everyone's really smart in this team, this organization. How would you solve for it? So come with a solution, not just the problem. And those areas where you're solving for areas or issues that exist in the business are the ones that actually get you also to the next career progression. I'll give you an example of one when I worked at actually my first job at Salesforce. They were just starting up this vertical SC organization for the commercial business. That's not the enterprise business. This is I would say, general business and smaller business. And I had 4 SCs. So I was going from IBM, where I had over 80 SCs in the organization, to 4 SCs at Salesforce. But it was a problem that they were trying to solve for. How do we do industry and vertical selling in this commercial market? And how do we do it at scale? Because there's only 4 SCs and 40 AEs. And if you can imagine, if anyone looked at this, like, why would you take this on? This sounds crazy, right? I took it on. Thankful of the SCs and the SC leaders in the organization that helped drive the success. But after 6 years, it grew from less than $1 billion business. I think it was 40 million our first year ARR, to a multi-billion, probably one of the biggest organizations in 6 years, with over 50% year-over-year growth. That was my burning building that I helped drive success, and I looked for leaders who can help on that journey and really help drive success of that. And then kind of the last piece on this, and LaShonda talked about it, around building a broad network of people. I can't say enough how important that is. And I gotta again shout out to the I think men in general do this exceptionally well. I look at how they build their network, and it's not just in the SC organization, not just folks that that you know well, but actually outside of the organization, because it's all about your personal and professional brand. And it's what people will say about you the moment you walk out the door or walk out of that conference room. And so there's I was, again, I'll give you one more story because I love stories, and these are all, true, factual. And I got to give out a shout out to Lisa Edwards, who's the EVP at the time. I think she's now a president at another company. When I was stuck in my head, stuck as a senior director, I could not figure out how do I get to VP at Salesforce. And I met with Lisa for 30 minutes. She was my, first of all, I asked her if she would be willing to be an executive sponsor and coach for me. And she said, oh, absolutely, would love to do it. So that's why I'm like, ask. The worst thing that can happen is they could say no, and that's okay. You move on, you ask someone else, right? So she was amazing. She was the executive vice president at Salesforce for FP&A, wasn't even the SC or sales organization, a completely different team. And I met with her for 30 minutes. And I explained, like, I can't figure out how I get to VP. I just don't know if I'm missing skill set, if I'm not focusing on the right things, like what can I do to demonstrate that I have earned that VP title? And it's funny, in 30 minutes, she said, oh, I can tell you that. Let me, she goes, let me show you my screen. And she brings up the org chart at Oracle, goes, okay, who's your boss? And I tell her who my boss was at the time. Then she says, okay, well, let's go up above your boss. This is another shout out. So Lisa Edwards, amazing, look her up. She's an incredible woman. The other one I have to give a shout out to is Brian Millam.
Yay!
Yay! See,
Yay!
Millam.
Millam is awesome.
Oh, he's like, I just want to bear hug him virtually, by the way. He's such a great guy. You talk about authenticity, you talk about leading, through example. I used a term that he was the one who shared it with the sales team and the SE team a long time ago, which is better, never best. And you hear me say that in my organization, on my team, and across the board. But in that time frame, what Lisa shared with me was she looked at actually my boss's peers across the organization. So the ones who reported to Brian Millam, and said, okay, well, what are you doing to influence this person to be successful? Well, what are you doing to influence this person to be successful? And I was floored. I thought, wow, I had no idea that this is what's important, because what she had explained in 30 minutes was that it's not just your boss's decision. Your boss has to put the case together for that other person, for your boss's boss, right? This case for Millam. And Millam's going to ask across the board, well, what do you think of Cristina Weir? What has she done for your business? And that's the piece where the burning bridge, where you can help across the board, think broader than your sphere of influence. And in 6 months after the conversation with Lisa Edwards, I was promoted to VP. So I hope you like that story. And so true. Like, shout out to Millam. Love that man.
I'll Slack him later today and say, hey, you had a little shout out today.
That'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, that story resonates so much with me, Cristina. I mean, I think it is like the secret sauce, like the keys to the kingdom to getting, especially those more senior promotions, right? I mean, there is just such a network that you need advocating and working on your behalf. Mm-hmm. So I think like that is just like a huge takeaway for me. I mean, the other things that you were saying that resonated too, and just kind of in developing that executive presence is like, you have to speak up and know your strengths, but you have to hear your opportunities for development as well and be willing to work on those. And I think even Shonda, like you were saying in the beginning, we're all always working on that. It's like a never ending journey in a really good way. But we have to have that network that can give us that feedback and know what we need to continue to work on. So that's awesome. The other thing too. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah. Oh,
I was just going to say it actually ties with growth mindset. If no one's read, or if you haven't read Carol Dweck's book on mindset, that's really what's really flipped me in such a way that it's all about. It ties into better, never best. How do you focus on a growth mindset? And it is being authentic, being able to hear. It's hard to hear when you do something wrong. It's super hard because you just feel like, I am terrible at my job. But that's not what individuals, if they're giving you that feedback, they care. They care, they want you to be successful, and they're giving you the feedback so that you can be that better, even better version of the professional role. Sorry, Leah, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
We focus on that as well in all of our opportunities and discussions with our teams and within our workshops. Is feedback is a gift given with open hands. You choose what to accept out of that, but it's the feedback that's the true gift, because it helps you see yourself holistically and a bit more honestly. Otherwise, we're just that meme: what I think I do, what my mom thinks I do, what my friends think I do, right? So if we could see ourselves that way, if I may, I'd love to just parlay onto what both of you all were saying earlier. And that is, for my career does not look like a straight line, not even a little. I went a lot of different places, and that helped me grow outward from where I thought I was going to be. So if you're not where you're at right now,
it's okay.
It's all right, right? You need to learn something here,
you might be
and
where
then
you
take
need to
that and go somewhere else. My whole career based on say yes.
Yes,
somebody asks you, say yes.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you don't deserve it. Don't feel like, we were talking about this earlier, right, ladies? That imposter syndrome. Oh, I don't deserve it. I shouldn't be in this room, right? Say yes. Feel the fear.
Yeah.
Do it anyway.
You feel by it. Yeah.
Right.
I love that. You know, you talk about just in terms of planning career. I mentioned I started my work as a tech pre-sales person. I wanted to be a nurse. I literally want to be a nurse. I have one small problem. I have a fear of needles. So thankfully the counselor said, what else do you like to do? And I ended up getting into sales at IBM, not at all part of my plan. I'm not supposed to be in the position I'm in by the statistics. If I just look at data based on my background, my upbringing, what I don't know, I'm not supposed to be in this role. But guess what? I punched my weight. And one of the things that Cristina talked about that I love is about being intentional about your career. Those things to me are important. And what I've learned over the years, and I've had leaders who've invested and coached me and gave me lots of feedback. And I did at first take it personal. And they came back and said, the reason I'm telling you, because I see potential. I'm taking the time to give you feedback because I see that there is greatness in you. And I want to make sure that we as a company invest and mold and grow and develop in you what you are actually meant to be. But declaring what you want is super important, never shying away. I wanted Lou Gerstner's job back in the day. I didn't know any better, right? I'm bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. I come to IBM. I want to take Lou Gerstner's job because I thought, well, why not? I was just that bold. I was that ambitious until I realized what that meant about having balance, what it meant about travel, being away from my family, what it meant about decisions and the responsibility I would have on a company. So over time, I got an opportunity to learn about those different variables I had to factor. No one else got to tell me what I could be. Only I could decide what I wanted to be. But declaration is important. And if you don't assume your manager knows. Don't assume your managers.
Yes, exactly.
They don't care. But there's many times I get roles that come across my desk, or I find out about roles, executive roles and technical roles. And I know somebody. And that's because someone spent some time with me and shared with me very clearly. Here's my aspiration. Here's my ambition. And maybe they're not quite ready yet, but I'm going to put them in front of that person, especially if they're a woman, say, hey, I need you to talk to this person. She's got this on her career plan in the next 18 to 24 months. She's ready though. Let's invest. Let's put a tribe around her. But declaration and what you want is so important. Communicating it and documenting it so that no one is confused about what you want. And that to me is the most important thing you can do.
Yeah. And I was looking at the chat a little bit, and I want to make sure that everybody's understanding what we're saying. And that is also okay to say no. Right. And when, right? I say yes a lot if I know it's going to stretch, it's going to grow. But if it is just, no is okay. No is a complete sentence.
Yeah, and the other thing that I often will do is especially if it's being asked of multiple people is hey, I only have so much time, so help me prioritize. I'm happy to say yes to this, but here's what's on my plate. So then what you're doing is you're giving visibility, right? Authenticity, visibility into your workload. Say, I more than willing to take this on. The challenge I have is time. So is it a higher priority than these other aspects that you've asked me to do? And that to me is, I think, another way of saying not so much no, but helping in prioritizing your full day, your full week, what's expected of you, and ensuring that that it's a decision that is shared with the other person asking.
And it broadcasts your value and your activities now.
Yeah, we have a trend of saying yes to everything, and everything you say yes to is really, in some cases, becomes a trend in your career because you want to be seen, you want to be visible. But no is okay, and it's not maybe no, maybe it's not right now. Or it's not me. In fact, I have someone else who I think may be better suited. Or in Christina's point, it's about prioritization, because you can't say yes to everything. Because one of the things I will say, just as a female leader, and I mentioned this, giving yourself space and grace. We need self-care. I was on a call yesterday with one of our physicians here on staff at Salesforce, and we had a Be Well session. Being selfish is okay at times because it's about being focused on self. We cannot be at our very best, do our very best work when we are exhausted and overwhelmed. And in this new world that we're living in, we're exhausted, we're overwhelmed because we're saying yes to everything. And that's not sustainable for a certain period of time. And I learned that on my own. My husband's like, who are you going to tell no to? I was like, I don't know. And eventually I realized I'm tired all the time. I'm frustrated. I'm not bringing my very best ideas. I'm not bringing the best Shonda every day that I know I can. And so I had to take time to say, I'm going to fit working out in, because that was important to me. I'm not going to take a call at 7 a.m. because I had kids, and my kids at the end of the day, they were screaming in the back in the background. They didn't care I was on a conference call. They were getting ready to go to school. They were enjoying their day. So saying no to a phone call at 7, being in healthcare, thankfully, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a physician, so no one's going to die. Right. Thankfully, I didn't go into that side of the equation, but no is okay. And then maybe it's a not right now, or I tell people, I know somebody. I'm always willing to expand my network for the sake of giving others an opportunity to engage, to bring a different diversity of thought. That doesn't mean the work doesn't get done. It just may not have to get done by me directly.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I'm just going to take a quick pause here because I see some of the questions coming in, and I forgot to mention in the introduction that we're going to keep the dialogue going for another 10-15 minutes, and then we will shift to questions. So I see there's already been a couple great ones that have been posted. Please feel free to add more, and we'll shift gears towards the end of this to make sure we take those. And what I would love to do, I mean, like playing a little bit, Cristina, off your story, and Shonda, some of the things you were saying, and this concept of creating an influencer network and all the bosses that helped your career get to where it is today, especially getting to that VP role and how important that is. When I think about that, in the old days, a lot of that was done in person, right? Like we were able to physically sit with people, meet with people. And now our world has changed. Now we have to present ourselves and build our brand virtually. We have to build relationships virtually, both with employees and peers, but also customers. So Shonda, I'd love to hear, your perspective, even knowing where, you're traveling now, meeting with customers, like how have you approached or navigated this?
Well, I think it's more important to get clear in one of the conversations we just had, which is about understanding your brand. Be intentional on what your value proposition is. Really get clear on that. And your value prop, my value prop, and others on this call, we're all very different. The key is we all have one though. So really spend time investing in understanding what is your superpower. I had to learn, I just wanted, I wanted to do everything because I wanted to be visible. I wanted to be seen as a strong worker. I wanted to be seen that I would go run through, the walls to get whatever needed to get done. And I realized that was not just sustainable. So I had to get clear on, for the roles I wanted to compete on and where I wanted to go in my career, what is my brand? And my brand, I had realized, was not always what I thought of myself, but it was how others saw me. So part of the conversation we're talking about, which is getting feedback, and there was a comment about getting feedback from others. Absolutely. What I put out is not, or what I say is not always what's heard. So tone, inflection, especially now on these calls, are really, really important. But getting clear on your brand, asking for feedback, asking your manager, your stakeholders, the people you engage with, the Cristina story, which is, do the leaders above your current leadership team, do they know you? If you are being put in line for promotion and they say, hey, I'm thinking about Shonda, what's going to say this? Are they going to say, well, who is that? And that would tell me that the work that I do may not reach those levels. So my first question to my direct leader and my mentors, and we can have a whole nother conversation on sponsors. What are the types of things beyond my day job? Because I got to perform. I have to perform. But beyond that, what are the other types of work that I can do that is impactful to the company? Sometimes there's projects called stretch assignments that are really big initiatives that have impact the current and maybe future part of the company. Sometimes, back to the Carol Dweck book, growth mindset and challenger mindset, you bring ideas to the company that they hadn't even thought of. And I love telling, especially those are early in career, when you come into a corporate organization, oftentimes, because I've been there, you're quiet, I'm just here to learn. I had a young lady who was on a call with me a couple of weeks ago. We were getting ready to do a panel session. She said, I'm going to take notes. I said, you will not. You're not the note taker, darling.
Yeah, right.
You're a senior leader. You are on this panel with me.
Yeah.
So together we have this record button. We'll use the record button, but we will acquiesce at times opportunities to show up in a different way. So declare what you want. So in terms of being a networker, really declaring your brand, I should say, and understanding what you want. I also think there's a bit of servant leadership. So it's always about what I can do to help and improve the work of others. And if you're putting yourself out there, regardless of what level, what title, what role you're in, that is going to show up because you're going to be seen as someone who is always given in terms of themselves and helping the company and the team be better. There is a quote that I have at the bottom of my signature by Donald McGann, and it says, leadership is an action, it's not a position. We're all leaders. We all have an opportunity.
So true.
We all have an opportunity to lead. So servant leadership to me is always something in building a network, because I'm giving of myself, either my time, my connections. And the third thing about that is I'm a connector. I love bringing people together. I love finding people who have a potential need or area of interest with people who potentially can help improve that need or address that need or improve that area of interest, and bringing people together for the sake of helping them connect. So therefore my network is thus improved or widened. And the last thing I would say is, in this virtual world, you actually have to make time to do it, because we're not going to be able to walk down the hall. I'm in a conference today, thankfully, so I get to meet people, and we're out there in the scary world of now meeting people, but being intentional about who you want to engage with and why, and also what your value proposition is. I had a young lady I met with actually this morning. We worked together at Microsoft, my last company. She's now at Google. We're both in healthcare. I had nothing to ask her other than, what can I do? What's the one thing I can do to help you? What's the one thing I can do to help you? And why am I doing that? Because I think what the work she does is amazing. And if there is something that I can do to help her improve her brand, her connection, her engagement in her role at a completely different company, great. You know why? Because there's going to be a time where someone's going to reach out and say, hey, I'm thinking about going to Google. Do you know somebody?
Exactly.
I have a connection to say, I do. And when I call my friend, I'm going to say, hey, I know somebody. She's going to say, send them my way. It's a direct connection. So for me, I learned that over the years, being a connector, connecting people, not just for the sole purpose of me benefiting, but for the broader community. And it's because we're spending this time with a bunch of women. And I think Cristina or Tanya said it, we're not great at it as women. Like, we're in our little box, we're just working hard. I want to expand my network to as many people as I can. But key is, you have to know your brand, declare what you want, and really use this time that we are virtual to just dedicate time and allocate it to invest, reaching out to people. And you've got all of us here, we're all on LinkedIn, we all post things, we all have probably connectors of people you want to know. Leverage that, because there's no shame in saying, I need help. Right. If you could spare a moment, I'd love to pick your brain, or I'd love to see if you can help me. But I always ask one question: what can I do for you?
All boats rise, right?
Together.
High tide raises all boats.
Yeah.
100%.
And I think like the virtual part, I mean, I prioritizing your time in this new world, I think it's so important. And I don't know, Cristina or Tanya, like anything from your perspectives on this, but I mean, I think it's been part of the challenge. And like, I can even speak for myself, like I'm getting better and better every day. And what I delegate and what I prioritize for myself, the meetings that I take, like even I thought I was pretty good at like what meetings I took and didn't take. And, you know, it's like all of a sudden you can just, you know, get consumed by this. And I've had to recalibrate in how I manage my own calendar and day. And again, it's a total new reality in many ways. And I think it is really important. I feel like I had a formula before that was working really well. And then I'm like getting my new formula in place now. And it's like, it's been an evolution. It's been a journey. And I'm sure many, you know, other women in particular are experiencing that. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, the thing that always pops in my mind in that is around ruthless prioritization.
Yeah.
And I do that daily. I really do. I do it daily. I ask myself, of my to-do list, is this something that is needs to be done now, or something that can be delegated? Because if you lead a team, I feel very fortunate that I have so many amazing leaders in my organization. And again, they're all bright, they're all smart. So by delegating and giving someone else an opportunity to run a program, run a project, and it gives them bigger visibility that will go outside of the organization, that is amazing. So I try to find ways to do that. I do really ruthless prioritization on a daily basis. And it's okay. And you know, like giving yourself permission, it's okay if something drops. That's going to happen. We just have to be, you know, kind to ourselves. I think that's probably one of the things that I've learned for myself in the decades of doing this is I got to be kinder to myself. I got to realize where my boundaries are. And in some cases, I've been able to do work-life balance. In other cases, it's about work-life acceptance. I've accepted the fact that there isn't a balance to this.
Yes.
And those you ebb and flow into that, right?
Yes.
And it's important to just be aware of that and give yourself permission to say, you know what, maybe at this moment today, it's not, you know, I need work-life balance and I need to do something a little different. So.
And I think of it as seasons. In this season,
Yes.
I'm going to give here because it's what the requirement is. But then there's going to be another season and I'm going to go camping. And
That's okay.
Right. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, that's
absolutely.
fantastic.
And ruthless prioritization is no joke.
Yeah.
You're not going to feel good about some of the choices you're going to make, and you're going to have to do it anyway.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's not about feeling good about all of this all the time. It's if you can find your way through seeing, it's not that you're not getting it done. It's not that I know you can do this thing. I'm choosing not to do this thing. And I'm choosing to let somebody else help and let somebody else shine. Then you're not being so mean to yourself about, oh, I didn't get it done and only I can. Don't believe your own marketing either.
Yeah.
Only I can do it.
Right. No, wow, that's so well said.
That's a word you said, Tanya, the letting someone else shine.
Yeah.
Especially I want visibility. I want people to see me, watch me. It's hard. But in the end, if that is not in your core strength, remember, I talked about being positive, playing to my strength. If that's not my core strength and that's someone else's, I'm going to put them up all day and twice on Sunday. Why? Because it's not my core. I'm going to spend more time trying to get that thing right that someone naturally does that on their own. It's okay to let others shine. We are all diamonds. We're all going to shine at different moments. And the ruthless prioritization, you will not sustain, you will burn yourself out, and you will look around and say, but, you know, and I didn't mention this earlier, but you'll look around and say, I've done all this stuff. The stuff matters, but only the right stuff matters when it comes time for you accomplishing the goals you have set. Be wary of doing stuff, i.e. activity, versus having impact on the business. We can get into activity all day long. We can do a bunch of stuff and we do this great. We build team morale things, team camaraderie things. But in the end, I said, I have to perform before I can go do anything extra, my brand has to be, if I put LaShonda in, here's what I'm going to get. I'm going to get a high performer, someone who communicates clearly, who can develop high performance teams, whatever the brand thing is. But before you go do all the other activity, make sure that the thing you're set in today, you're exceptional at it. And if you're not, ask why not and what you can do to get better.
Got it.
Yeah. Awesome, ladies. All right, we've got about 10, 15 minutes left. So I wanted to shift over. I know time flies when you're having fun. Want to just shift gears. We have a lot of questions coming in, and I wanted to introduce one of our PreSales Collective WISE Council members, Wendy. Wendy, do you want to share? I know you've been kind of monitoring the questions. Is there a good one that you'd like to share for our panelists? And maybe, okay. And we probably need to promote her up. So, okay. I will dive in. Okay, God, we've got a whole bunch of them. I'm going to take Taylor's to start, which hers came in kind of early. And, you know, I'll just open this up. If you're a naturally peppy person, how can I balance that? Yeah, Cristina.
I don't know what
How
you're
can
talking
I
about.
balance that part of my personality while still appearing professional in front of others?
If I can, let me
I mean,
just
that
take a
one might be
moment
made
to.
for you. Yeah.
So first of all, it's important to stay authentic. If you're a peppy person, it's gonna shine through. I am naturally half full. I'm the one who's always trying to get the team together. There's a lot of conversations that are going. It's important to just remember your authentic self. The second thing is usually around, well, what might be perceived or seen around a peppy person. Like for me specifically, I have a tendency to take over a room, if that makes sense, right? To consume a room because I'm peppy, because I talk to others. So I really focus on how I can, in those areas, I don't want to say diminish, but really give someone else and give others an opportunity to shine. Back to Tanya's point, is really to ensure that I am being my genuine self. It's okay to be peppy and bright, but give others room to allow them to shine through that process, because not everyone is, you know, as peppy and upbeat. They wake up in the morning going, gosh, today's gonna be a great day. And I'll call on others to give them an opportunity and a voice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Fantastic.
Awesome.
And we see Wendy now.
Hi,
Wendy's
everyone.
talking about that
Nice to
before.
see you. That's all right. Here's a great question for you.
Okay.
How do you bring command with your team members, especially if you yourself are a people person and have always been the good cop?
Well, I'll take a stab at that one. It was hard for me early in my career becoming a manager because I wanted people to like me. I wanted to be the friend, kind of like the parent thing. But I learned very quickly I had to balance being liked and being respected. And I was more about being respected, and I was promoted to a manager role early in my career. So I was younger. So it was always a balance of I'm managing and leading teams where the individuals have, quite frankly, more time in the business, acknowledging that. But what I grew to learn was providing clarity, providing accountability. So people talk about my brand. I'm high on clarity. You're going to know where you stand. I don't want that to be confused. I want people to be clear on what's expected. And when those expectations are met, we will celebrate. When they're not, we will have accountable conversations. But it's that, to me, it's simple in terms of its communication and its clarity at its best, and providing that upfront and not shying away from it. And I tell my team, especially those who are earlier in their career, communication, but documentation. Because again, sometimes people will not hear what you said. They will design whatever story they want to tell, especially if you're delivering difficult or constructive feedback. They don't hear the stuff you want them to work on. They hear all the stuff that they're great. So I was also taught, with the vinegar, you got to give some honey. You can track more bees with honey than vinegar. But the command is about just providing the current expectations and understanding, and providing that to the individual can create that command and control environment. That doesn't work all the time though. So just being clear and kind and consequences and accountability, that's great. But sometimes you also have to lean in and learn where people meet people where they really are. to really allow and engage with people to get the work that you believe needs to get done.
Agree. If I can just add to that, I think I struggle personally with the word command. When I think of command, I think military, and not that there's anything wrong with military. Just in how I try to lead is more around collaborative, right? And trying to drive influence and try to drive direction. I think it's you earn people's trust and respect as well, and you earn people's trust and respect, and that's actually how you drive kind of a command type of organization, is when you as a leader or you as an individual, it doesn't have to be, again, to LaShonda's point, leadership is an act, not a position, right? Mm-hmm. The moment you actually demonstrate and show that you add value to a position, to an organization, to that individual, right, then that's where you begin to earn their trust and respect, and the command naturally happens because they really see you as the leader because of the things that you're coming up with. Now, I think LaShonda also brought up a really good point, which is there are some individuals out there who just can't let that go, right? The whole command thing. Maybe it could be back to what LaShonda said. For me, I look young. I also started in a leadership role when I was 24 years old. I had people senior than me in those cases. When you have tried to earn their respect, tried to add value, and they're still not demonstrating and giving the respect, especially in a public meeting, cutting you off, doing other things, like there's certain aspects. That's when I bring that person aside and really start having more of a very situational conversation. I learned this at Salesforce, SBI, situation, behavior, impact. And I give actually that person feedback on the situation that happened, the impact that it has, not just to me, but to the organization as me as the leader. The behavior that they demonstrate and the impact it has, and then a lot of the time I will question and ask, is this are you a part of this team, or do you want to be a part of this team? Because we're trying to build something bigger and greater, and that's where it's really becomes very focused and directional there. But I personally struggle with command because I just think that there's a lot of smart people in the organization, and we just need to be collaborative and kind of steer towards the right method.
I think that's great. And we're gonna wrap up shortly. So one more question for everyone. What book are you reading, or what is a favorite podcast of yours?
Ooh.
The book I just finished, it was an Audible, and I loved it, was Ursula Burns' Where You Are Is Not Who You Are. She was a former CEO of Xerox, and I enjoyed the book for many reasons. One, she narrated the Audible, so just hearing it in her voice and telling the stories and the emotion that was evoked through different parts of her journey of growing up, becoming ultimately a prominent African-American female CEO was just amazing. What she learned, and a lot of the topics we talked about today were infused in her journey and her story. And I just finished it about a week and a half ago. And so it's my favorite new book. So I'd highly recommend it.
This one's not one that I'm currently reading because right now I'm just reading for pleasure. I'm in that season of my experience right now. I don't want to talk about that one. So this one is Deborah Tannen's Communicating 9 to 5. She is a mentor of mine from a long time. She's been a long time mentor. And I think that her analysis of when we speak, how we speak, what we say, when we choose to say it is really helpful, and it's very research oriented. It's excellent at identifying, do you know, we only speak 4 minutes on average in a meeting, as an example, right? It's like, ooh, why? And so that's really super helpful for me to then see where my barometer is, where's my baseline, and where do I need to be going. And that helps to answer a little bit of imposter syndrome. It helps to answer a little bit of bringing some command to your world. And it also, for those of you in the Q&As, it helps to answer, how are we going to balance what we're going to say and being intentional about where we're going to say it. So if that helps.
Awesome. I'm trying to remember, I'm trying to remember the exact name of the book that I just started. It's called The Mountain, I believe it's called The Mountain That Is You. And I'll make sure to post this on my LinkedIn, but it's actually it's short stories. So full disclosure, I'm always open about my ADHD, and things that are short and sweet are really good for me. Anything that's long, I have a tendency to put it down. Next thing you know, I read a book. It takes me 2 to 3 months to read a book. But The Mountain That Is You is short story about really overcoming the biggest hurdle in anyone's life, which happens to be yourself, and understanding kind of the stories around it. By the way, if anyone's I'm a total TikTok fiend. I got this book actually off of TikTok, in full disclosure.
Cool.
And so I'm just starting it, and yeah, I'm really excited about it. The other thing I will say, I'll have to find this. I'll make sure to post it on LinkedIn. There's a woman actually that I follow on TikTok who's pretty amazing, and she gives different kind of management advice, or how to ask for either career progression or what you're looking for. It's just and it's always in minute and a half. So that's what I love about TikTok, is that it's short, concise, really great feedback, and I'm happy to provide that to anyone who's interested. I get a lot of leadership snippets.
Yeah.
The one from Simon Sinek is the one where he says, listening should not be an act. Listening should be an art, because the act is just listening to the words, but the art is actually hearing what's being said from the words and then responding to it. That was a minute. I'm like, write that down. I forward all these to my husband to try to make him a better person. He's a great guy. He's an amazing guy. But I take some of these snippets, and they really are. They're fantastic little snippets of TikTok leadership and just career advice. And I'm happy to provide them.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tanya, Shonda, and Cristina, for leading this amazing conversation today. In closing, I want to share 3 important tangible takeaways that I wrote down, and I'll also share with our audience. First is ditch doubt. Second is feel fear. And the third is ruthless prioritization. So, I mean, there was so much. I mean, we're going to share this recording out, but I think when I tie back to confidence and command and having executive presence, especially as women, I think those are 3 important, simple things that you can all keep top of mind. So again, thank you, everyone. This was a fantastic session, and we really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.